Hi, welcome to 100 Things Podcast. I'm your host, Melody Pittman. The 100 Things West Virginia podcast talks about all things West Virginia. It's designed to go along with the newly released book that I wrote, 100 Things to Do in West Virginia Before You Die, part of a national book series by Reedy Press. State parks, roadside attractions, sports, adventures, food, you name it, we're going to discuss in this bi-monthly podcast airing on #Travel Tuesdays. I've been a travel blogger for 10 years, and you can find my travels on whereverimay.roam.blog.com and its socials. I've traveled all over the world, but West Virginia is the place I call home. I love it. I have a bumper sticker of it. I wrote a book about it. You get the gist. This is episode 7 of the 100 Things WV podcast, and today we're going to be joined by none other than my husband, Eddie Pittman. So I was in West Virginia since April promoting the book. I live in Mesquite, Nevada, so I'm literally thousands of miles away from home, and I've been sightseeing around the state as a blogger and as an author, selling books, doing book signings, attending festivals, and just getting content about West Virginia. My husband joined me in early June, and while this is not the lifestyle for him, hopping in a car every day, going somewhere new, unpacking suitcases, and so forth, he's rolled with the punches. We're on week 7. We have a couple more weeks before we finish up and head back to Nevada. So he's going to join us shortly, and we're going to talk about our adventures.
Oh, good gravy. The kind made from real premium sausage. The kind that's smothered over deliciousness. The kind you can only get at Tudor's Biscuit World. That's the gravy that's oh so good. It's the perfect topping to your biscuits or your taters, and even makes a delicious side. It's oh so good gravy. Tudor's Biscuit World. We're dripping with oh good gravy.
And again, I'm here with my husband, Eddie Pittman. Eddie, thank you for being here. I don't really think you have another choice, but thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
So Eddie drove across the country and met me in West Virginia. We stayed in Charleston for a couple of days. Then we hit the road. We have a Ram Dually 3500. You would think it's spacious and all this sort of thing, but with 2 big suitcases. We each have a computer bag. We had some soft drinks to start with, and then the things we've collected. Our truck is literally stuffed to the gill. And poor Eddie's had to lift my 70-pound suitcase in and out of the car nearly every day. And how do you feel about that?
It's just part of the process. If you're going to travel, it's one of the things that you have to deal with.
Okay, so we started our adventures in the Eastern Panhandle. Eddie had not been there before, so we went to Berkeley Springs, Harpers Ferry, and Shepherdstown. So Shepherdstown, we just kind of walked around. I went and bought a coffee. We got some pastries there. We went over to the Bavarian Inn. We didn't have a great experience at the Bavarian Inn. We actually ate at the restaurant, and it's absolutely beautiful. The menu is great. It's a bit pricey, but we did not have good service there. It took about 55 minutes to get a cold sandwich. Wasn't it a cold sandwich?
Yes.
And so it was just not very good service. A manager came over and spoke to us, and literally the train derailed in every way at Bavarian Inn. So that was not favorable, unfortunately, because they are in the book. But we had a better experience over in Berkeley Springs. Were you surprised at Berkeley Springs State Park?
I actually enjoyed Berkeley Springs.
Okay, and we stayed at the Old Country Inn, and you liked that?
That was very nice.
Mm-hmm. And so we did the baths. They were able to work us in for an early morning appointment in Berkeley Springs. I think it was the old Roman bathhouse. And so we did a shared spa there. It was like $35 or something like that for 20 minutes or so. The one that we did is not the one where you can bathe whenever you're finished. So Eddie wasn't really fond of getting back in the car after sweating to death. But it was fun. And so what did you like about Berkeley Springs?
The feel of the town was nice. The food was good. The Bavarian Inn has a nice, cozy lobby.
Old Country Inn.
Old Country Inn.
Yep.
Has a nice bar.
Mm-hmm. And then we went to Harpers Ferry. And Harpers Ferry is another state park, National Historic Site. That's where we parked at the bottom of the hill and we walked around the town. They have the John Brown's Raid is there. And they have the bridge that connects the rail trail. And your thoughts about that?
It was a little rainy that day that we were there. But it was interesting. It was nice. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I got to see it.
Okay. and we went in the historic candy store, and we had another bad dining experience. Our dining experiences in the Eastern Panhandle weren't all that good. We had two very unfavorable dining experiences. The second was at the Anvil. I'd heard all about the Anvil, and it's a historic restaurant. I'd heard good and bad. I decided I wanted to go because the menu looked good. They didn't have nearly half the things on the menu. Again, the train derailed in every form there. I ordered a crab dip. It was $15. It came out with less than a quarter of a cup of crab dip. They stuck some tortilla chips or something in the middle of it and tried to spread it around to look like it was okay, and I called them right out on that. In case you didn't know, we used to own $1 million catering business and restaurants, so we're not playing around when it comes to food. Okay, so we finished up the Eastern Panhandle, driving those country roads, and we went next to Romney, correct? We were in Hampshire County. We went to Romney, stayed at the Cool Wink Motel, and tell us about the Cool Wink Motel.
Cool Wink Motel is probably from, the 50s, 60s, and it still has the retro feel, still has furnishings from the 60s and the 70s of light fixtures, the artwork on the wall, very Brady Bunch looking. Some of the room, or most of the rooms, still have paneling, but it has the nice roadside old type motel that you sometimes look for when you're traveling.
And clown pictures. Gotta have clown pictures. One thing that we noticed there that we've seen since we've been traveling ever since is that they do not rent to people that live in their town. I guess they have many reasons for that. I can only guess that they probably want to cut down parties and so forth. But some people are in favor of that and some are not. But we've noticed that a lot along the way in independently owned motels. So that's a thing. While we were in Romney, I had 3 back-to-back book signings: Bent River Trading, Farmhouse Studio and Market, and the Romney Co-op Marketplace. Which was your favorite?
Farmhouse Studio and Market was a very interesting place out in the middle of basically nowhere on a 2-lane road with very little advertising. When we got there and walked in, I was amazed at the amount of inventory, the product variety that they offered, and it was top of the line. The jellies, the crackers, they had different meats, they had some wines there, they had beer. Upstairs they had a lot of West Virginia puzzles, sweatshirts, WVU items, West Virginia items. It was a lot. As Melody did the book signing, I walked across the yard to their small nursery where they offer plants for trees, bushes, and flowers.
And I admired the cows that were some hanging out down in the little river down there. And one of the coolest things we did when we were in Romney is we went on a train ride. We've been on a few train rides across the country, and I did a train ride in Elkins. When I was writing the book, I did the Tigert Flyer, I think. But we did the Potomac Eagle when we were in Romney, and that was super fun. We did the trough trip. It included dinner, a 3-course dinner, and the dinner was actually quite tasty. Eddie, what'd you think about the train ride?
The train ride was one of the highlights of that area. The food was very good. The service was good.
Did you see an eagle?
We saw a couple of eagles there. You would get the opportunity to go out, I believe they call it a gondola.
Yeah, I think so. A gondola car. Mm-hmm.
Where you can go out and actually be in the outside air and watch it. Of course, you do have to stay seated and so forth, away from the rail.
Mm-hmm. And it was, I think, 45 minutes. Once they stop the train and you can go out on the gondola, you take turns with the other people on the train. We were the last ones as we're actually going through the eagle habitat, basically, the trough. So Eddie went out and did that. I didn't want to be trapped up for the 40 minutes, so I just kind of stayed there and hung with the locals and chatted some. So we really liked Romney. We really enjoyed Romney and Hampshire County. It was absolutely beautiful. And like they told me, they don't have a state park, or they don't have a huge attraction, so to speak. But it's countryside. It's like amazing people. It's just like a whole bunch of little gyms all over the place. And we actually attended a bluegrass festival, my first bluegrass festival. It was so much fun. And I think parking cost $5. The admission wasn't very much. And you literally were steps away from the parking lot to where you put your chair to watch or to listen to the bluegrass festival. So you're not exhausted by the time you get there and everything. And they had some food trucks and souvenirs and things like that. And it was a non-alcoholic, family-friendly bluegrass festival. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And you enjoyed that, Eddie?
That was good. That was most enjoyable.
Okay, so we left Hampshire County, and along the way, I'm not sure in which order or anything because it's all running together at this point, but we went to Blackwater Falls. Again, Eddie has traveled the world, but he's traveled very little in West Virginia, so I was happy to show him some of the things that I know and love about West Virginia. And we both had health issues. He's had knee and ankle issues the whole trip because we are over 50. And I've had cellulitis, maybe gout. We don't know exactly what it was. And what else did I have? I had some other issue. Oh, I had bronchitis as well. So I've literally been medicated the whole time I've been in West Virginia. But we hobbled down to Blackwater Falls to the overlook to get some pictures and things. We kind of paid for it the next day with swelling joints and all that sort of thing, but it was well worth it. And we drove through Thomas. We stopped in Thomas. And I've been going to Thomas for a few years now, but it's probably been 2 or 2.5 years since I was there last. The sheer number of art galleries in Thomas is mind-blowing. They've just spruced up the street so beautifully, and we went to a Christmas store there. What were your thoughts about Thomas?
Thomas was very interesting. It does have a lot of art stores, coffee shops. There's basically 2 streets to go through that are for retail business, so to speak, but the setting of it itself it's a nice little town. And
then we have a horror story to tell you. We plug it in on our phone how to get to Tigert Lake from Thomas, West Virginia. And I don't know how we chose the route we chose. I think we had 3 options, and none of them looked good. They were all just curvy roads. But the one we took was an hour and a half. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. An hour and a half on the most country roads I've ever been on in my entire life. And I'm 54 years old, and I travel professionally. So I'm just saying, that road was really beautiful, but it was most of the time 1-lane road, all gravel road or dirt, and it was 1.5 hours. And we're in a Ram 3500. So at times we were just seriously praying, please don't let us pass a car, please don't let us pass a car. We saw some beautiful things along the way, but I'm glad we don't get car sick because that would have been miserable. But we arrived at Tigert Lake, and what did you think of Tigert Lake?
Tigert Lake was nice. I've not been there in quite some time.
We had lunch out on that patio where you could see the inflatables and everything. And then we had our cabin. It was a little bit weird because you drive to the other side of the park and it's about 10 minutes away to the cabins. We had a darling little cabin. Did we have a fire pit? I can't remember if we had a fire pit.
We did have an outdoor fire pit.
Okay, and we had a patio or balcony.
Nice wood deck.
Yeah.
With seating.
And rockers, I think.
Yes, there were some rockers with a nice view of the lake over in the cabin area.
We had a 2-bedroom cabin at Tigert Lake. But the thing we didn't know is that we needed to take food and things in, or you're kind of just stuck at the mercy of eating at the restaurant. And that would have been fine, but we ate lunch there and there was really nothing we were dying for. And we were there on, say, a Monday or something. And the only thing around, which was all fast food, was closed on that day. And I think the next day too. So I don't even remember. Oh, we had KFC.
I had KFC and you had Dairy Queen.
Yes, I had with Dairy Queen and KFC. We had 2 back-to-back days of having to eat fast food like that. But the cool thing was Fiesta-ware dishes, which are made in West Virginia, in case you didn't know. That's a fun fact I like to tell people all over the world. The state parks have signature dishes made for them for all the West Virginia state parks. Some of them just say West Virginia State Parks with their cute little logo with the rhododendron, and some of them have the name of the state park. And I think this one said Tigert State Park. I can't remember. But anyway, so Eddie puts his KFC meal looking so nice on the plate so we can have the picture of the china. And I posted it on my social channels, and sure enough, somebody immediately said, "Oh, I'll have that china." So that worked. So the cabin, do you remember about the cabin? We didn't have a bathtub there. We just had a shower, and we had a living room. It was really spacious, a little TV.
Had a nice kitchen, all the appliances you would need, cooking utensils, dishes, silverware, anything you would need. The only thing you would have to bring is the food.
They even had cast iron skillets and even like a pie crimper if you wanted to bake a pie while you were there. I thought that was really cute.
And the outside area is what I enjoy the most, of having the large wood deck with the seating, and then the fire pit.
And Eddie so graciously went to, I think I had to write an article that night. He drove around and took pictures of the sunset and the lake, got really beautiful pictures of the lake. So we left Tigert Lake and we headed up to Morgantown. I was working with Mountaineer Country through this 3-day stint of Morgantown and Tigert Lake. So in Morgantown, Eddie and I went there when we were dating. That was 32 years ago. And I don't know if you've ever been to Morgantown since then.
I don't think so.
And so I don't think much had changed other than a shopping center or so. We went and got $18 haircuts somewhere because when you're traveling, like, you don't have your dentist, you don't have your hairdresser, you go somewhere else to get your nails done or whatever. Those little things are always fun to try and find. We met some friends. We have some friends in Fairmont. I think they're in Fairmont that we met over at Table 9 for dinner. And that was nice. I loved the meal there. I think they had a really cool menu and we had a beautiful sunset.
Sat on the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was cool. Anything else about Morgantown? We went by to see the Don Knotts statue, of course, because it is in the book, and Don Knotts is pretty famous. But I will tell you, there's a lot of homeless people in that area, so if you're in that area, please be careful. Leaving there, we went to Fairmont for a few days. I did the Berkeley Covered Bridge Festival, so we went over to see the covered bridge, and we spent some time in Fairmont. We ate at the Polka Dot, which is so freaking cute. What else did we do? In Fairmont, I don't think we really did anything on that trip. We also went to Sutton for the day and went to the Bigfoot Museum, saw the Flatwoods Monster and Cafe Semino, what used to be Cafe Semino, what their new business is. We also went to see my friend and cousin Alan at the Buckhannon Barbecue Festival that evening. That was fun. That's a really nice festival. And then from there, I don't know which direction we went. We had a lot of days in between this stuff. One of the highlights of Eddie's trip, I know I'm going to let him talk about this some, was in Moundsville, which is the Palace of Gold. And a lot of people have no idea that's even in West Virginia. And when people interview me or I'm on the news or something and I'm talking about things that people will be so surprised to learn when they read the book, I always tell them the Palace of Gold is probably the thing that's really going to knock them out. So Eddie, your thoughts?
This was another route Melody selected a country road to take, because we ended up coming through areas that did not have a paved road.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And again, when you have a dually, it's just sometimes difficult. You just have to be careful and take your time.
The good thing is we didn't lose Sirius XM. Now, back to Palace of Gold. What did you think of Palace of Gold?
Palace of Gold was nothing I had expected. I don't know what I was expecting, but it's definitely worth the trip to see that alone. It is just amazing. What started out to be a very humble home turned out to be, in fact, a palace. And it's with the followers of Hare Krishna that has the talent to do paintings, whether it's art that you would frame and put on the wall, whether it is painting the ceilings, the tapestry around the crown molding. Mm-hmm. They had tapestry, and it was made by a lady that also did the embroidery work for the seating of all the chairs in this palace. And I forget how many different types of marble that are in this, but the floors, some of the walls, just everywhere you look. The chandeliers came from Austria.
No, they were made by a woman here, but the crystals were from Austria.
Correct. It was just spectacular. It was over the top, more than anything I had expected.
And keep in mind, they built the Palace of Gold. They didn't know how to build. They didn't have construction knowledge, and they just figured it out. They figured out all their talents. Like, they didn't have Google, they didn't have YouTube, they didn't have any of that, and they just figured it out on their own.
And as of today, they do not have running water. Yeah,
and some of them, it was just a gift, like a gift from God, is what they said. That was their gift. So that was pretty cool. We did a tour of that. You can't take pictures inside, so that's always disappointing, but I understand.
Then they also have grounds.
Oh yeah, the grounds are beautiful.
With gardens, different gardens, some with water fountains, some just flower gardens. There were several people out working the farm. It is a functioning farm with cattle and so forth.
The lily pads were beautiful, aren't they?
They're getting ready to bloom.
And I don't know if you heard this because we were at different places taking pictures. The two ladies that were down on the ground planting before we went in for our tour, did you hear them chanting and singing? Oh, it was beautiful. So I enjoyed that. Then another one of Eddie's favorite things was a day or so later, we went to the Moundsville Penitentiary. And I personally had never thought about touring a penitentiary. It wasn't kind of on my radar or anything, but we were there, so why not see it? It's very famous. It was never on my radar or anything, but the Moundsville Penitentiary actually is called the West Virginia State Penitentiary, is very famous, so we decided we would go tour it, and Eddie loved it there. So tell us about that.
This penitentiary closed, I believe it was around 1994, 95, somewhere in that area. But it was absolutely something that, again, that I was not expecting. You walk into the visitor center, which is much like you would any penitentiary, where you would check in and then you go through the gate, and that is where the convicts actually lived.
Mm-hmm. At one point in time, we learned that it was one of the top 3 most dangerous facilities in the country. We also learned that a lot of the inmates had so many talents. Like, it's so cliche to say, like, wasted talent, but as a mother and basically as a human being, you always just wonder, like, what happened to these people, how they went astray, and so forth. And then they had such amazing gifts, whether it be painting or masonry, construction, whatever. They had all these talents, and I get really emotional thinking about this, is just thinking, did someone ever tell them that they were good enough, or that they had these talents, or was anybody ever proud of them? Did these people ever feel happy about their talents in their life? Like, it's such a somber subject to think about. And the penitentiary is huge. We had a really good guide. Do you remember what his name was? Garrett? Garrett. Yeah, he was a great guide, and he had also worked on the prison side, or law enforcement side. So he had, some interesting takeaways from it. One thing that was really interesting to me is in the museum inside, before you go on the tour, there are pictures of the inmates that were put to death. There were, I think, around 110 that were put to death by lethal injection or execution.
Sparky.
Yeah, Sparky. And Sparky's still there. That's the electric chair, in case you didn't know. They have a picture of these people, and this was all before like 1956 or something like that, because they did away with the death penalty at that time. So all the people had their last picture made, and they had it made in like a suit and tie. All I know about prisons, jails, anything is what I've seen on TV. I have no other knowledge of it. And some of the things that we learned, definitely we've seen on TV, and some things I never thought about we haven't seen on TV. But seeing the picture of these people, I was a bartender for 5 years. So I'm a pretty good people reader, and I'm looking at the pictures of these people, and I'm thinking, of the 110 shown here, there's probably only 3 I'd be scared of meeting them up in a dark alley. And when I mentioned this to our guide, he was like, oh, like the crimes they did were so heinous and all this sort of thing. Like, you can't judge a book by its cover. But I'll have to say that there's a lot more scary looking people now than what it looked like were some of the worst then. So anything else from that tour?
For those that have never been inside a penitentiary, I was not prepared to see the number of cells that are stacked on top of each other. One of the rooms was 4 stories, or cells stacked 4 stories high. So those on the top, it was obvious they would throw things down to the lower levels, and including people, if there was someone that they got in an altercation with. I had never really thought about that. The community showers, I believe, fit like 18 to 20 people at one time. You do not control your water or how long that shower is. Whoever's controlling it will decide if it is a hot shower, cold shower, or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was not a place that I would ever want to spend my life.
And we haven't even mentioned that there were 998 people who died in the facility of other causes, not because they were put to death. So that somebody didn't like you, somebody shanked you, somebody, whatever. That's a lot of deaths, and a lot of it was hypothermia, and a lot of it was because there was no heat and cooling in the prison, and there were sometimes 3 and 4 people. There were rat infested, which is how the prison got closed down in the first place. But since then, on my Wherever I May Roam blog channel, I've now heard from somebody and know of somebody else who were prison guards there, and the stories they could tell are absolutely crazy. I told them they should really make a book of that, because that's stories that I think people would like to hear, because it's gruesome stories, but it's also people stories. Like, there's good and bad on both sides, and so I would be interested in reading those true stories about that place.
One thing, they also have a chapel that's in the yard there. And they did say that prisoners occasionally got married there.
So on a more positive note.
Let me say one more thing on that. They do offer nighttime tours to where you can check in from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and spend the night there if you want with a flashlight. And they basically, you do sign a waiver, but you can basically just explore it yourself.
And it is haunted, and we've met people who've been haunted by the people there, the ghosts there. But moving on to a more positive note, we then went to Ogilvie State Park. Sorry, let me correct myself again. Ogilvie, which is a city park, not a state park. Ogilvie, of my whole time in West Virginia, I'm going to have to say I think I enjoyed being at Ogilvie more than anywhere. And I would never have guessed that. Having been there 25 years ago or something, I did not even really like it then. And not only has it gotten spruced up, but the flowers, the plants, the historic home, the glass museum, like all those amenities are things I like to do. And I just absolutely loved it there. I loved the feel. Like I could walk around the grounds and just take pictures of the 500 plus hanging baskets of flowers. And we're not talking a hanging basket like on your front porch. We're talking about $800 worth of flowers in a basket. Over 500 of them. And the deer that'll like walk up and eat out of your hands. I could just like take pictures of that and see that like all the time. It was beautiful. What'd you think about Ogilvie?
Ogilvie was a very nice resort. Touring the old house with the antiques was interesting. The gardens they have, as Melody said, the plants are just amazing. They've done some updates as far as the hotel since the last time we were there, or the lodge. It was a very comfortable place. We did have some good weather there. Got to get outside.
So Ogilvie had several restaurants on site. One was the one that we ate at the bar that had the glassware, and that was good. I had a really good burger there. And then the other one we went for brunch or breakfast. The next day they had a buffet. That was pretty good. They had an ice cream shop over there where the historic house was and the glass museum.
The sweet shop.
Yeah, and they had the Bissonnet Gardens with an amphitheater. That would be really cool to see a concert or something there. Eddie has played golf there before. He didn't on this trip, but what's your thought of the golf course there?
The golf course is pretty, but it is literally, it's the side of a mountain. It's constantly, you're hitting either above your feet or below your feet. There is no middle ground.
And they did have boat kind of rentals. They had like kayaks and stuff like that, rentals. And also, we did some touring around downtown Wheeling. Hadn't been there. I hadn't been there ever. So we went down to that center market, which a lot of the things were closed. They closed at 3 around that area. But it's a really cute concept. They're really cleaning up. I'm not going to say cleaning up because I don't know what Wheeling looked like before. I'm going to say they're really sprucing up downtown Wheeling, and it's making a name for itself.
It's on the verge of becoming something. And I told Melody at the time, 3 to 5 years from now, this is going to be, it'll be a nice place.
Yeah, it'll be a major place.
They have already started painting and redoing some of the older buildings around the square or the center of town. And
they had a wine shop downtown. They had a martini bar, the little psychic place with the
crystals,
metaphysical stuff. Yeah, like that. Couple thrift stores, antique stores, couple boutiques. I don't know. We saw just a bunch of cool things in Wheeling. And then we also stayed over at the Wheeling Island Casino. I'd never been there. They do run dogs there, so you can go to the dog track. It was kind of like a blast from the past back when I guess probably 20 years ago, more than 20, we used to take our kids to the dog track in Cross Lanes. Was it Mardi Gras Casino at that time?
It was.
So we used to take our daughters there sometimes, and we'd give them $5 to go bet on the dogs, and they'd get a program. They'd pick the dog based on which one they liked the looks of or the name of, and sometimes they'd win, and then we'd take them, let them go spend their money on toys or something. But it brought back a lot of memories. And then they had some good slot machines. We live in the midst of slots in Clark County, Nevada, so it was nice to be back around the sounds and sights of the casino games. And we had a buffet at the casino one night.
A dinner buffet.
Yeah, a barbecue buffet. I think it was like $29 or something like that. But anyway, that was nice. And we got our room at Ogilvie and at Wheeling Island Casino on Booking.com, I think. If you haven't been hotel shopping in a while, I'm just going to say my thought on this is, if you haven't been to a Red Roof Inn, a Quality Inn, a La Quinta, places like that in a while, you might want to give them another look. because there's a bunch of hotels that are extremely overpriced. They're something like 600 times greater than they were in 2018. No more amenities and so forth. So don't spend all your money on accommodations when you can spend it doing something more fun. We got the room at the casino, I think, for around $100 a night. And I think at Ogilvy, it was maybe I'm going to say $130 to $150, but their rack rate is $200 or more a night. And we had a really great room, and we're able to keep that same room because we decided to stay for an extra day. So that was nice. Then,
and that room also had a balcony.
Oh, yeah.
Which was nice.
Where we could see the golf course and the deer. Then we went back to Fairmont, spent some more time in Fairmont, where we went and had that dairy cream corner ice cream cone with the crunch coat I'm still dreaming about. We just drove around, saw some things there, saw a friend we hadn't seen in 12, 13 years. Then we went to Batten Hollow Winery, where we just happened to go to take a picture of me holding the 100 Things to Do in West Virginia Before You Die book. And what did we do there? Run into my co-author, Angie. So that was pretty fun. We happened upon the Wind Down Market. I think it was a Saturday, right? And they have a Wind Down Market, so they have live music and a food truck and all this sort of thing. That was fun. We went over to the Museum of American Glass over in Weston. It's a free museum. I highly encourage anybody to go stop there and just see some of the beautiful glassware that West Virginia and the surrounding states has produced. They had a really good representation. You agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of glass there from different manufacturers.
Then we went to Eddie's other favorite attraction. He's had 3 favorite attractions if you're keeping track. They were Palace of Gold, the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, and Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And we understand that lunatic is not the wrong word in this case. That was actually the word because, people are so politically correct, but it is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And what did you think about that?
Absolutely. That was a very interesting place. Again, they offer nighttime stayovers as well if you're interested in exploring that era.
The building itself is the second largest sandstone building in the world next to the Kremlin. That's pretty amazing. Like, it is a fortress, basically. I want to thank you for listening to episode 7 of the 100 Things West Virginia podcast, and Eddie Pittman, my husband of 31 years, for joining me. I hope you're feeling inspired to get out and road trip West Virginia. Lots to see and do. Stay up to date with everything 100 Things West Virginia by following us on Facebook and on Instagram. Both pages can be found at 100 Things WV. If you're interested in purchasing 100 Things to Do in West Virginia Before You Die, you can visit reedypress.com or your local bookstore. You can also order from Target, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, anywhere that has books, basically. And you can follow along with my personal travels by following me on Facebook and Instagram at Wherever I May Roam blog, and on Twitter at Melody Travels. Talk to you next time.